We live in a world obsessed with urgency. Notifications, likes, deadlines, meetings, opinions, everything seems important. But the truth is, most of it isn't. The real tragedy isn't that we're busy doing the wrong things. We spend hours scrolling through lives that aren't ours. We chase applause instead of meaning. We prioritize popularity over purpose. And then we wonder why we feel empty at the end of the day. Here's the problem. We confuse movement with progress. We confuse distraction with direction. Ask yourself this: what truly matters to you? Not what looks good on a resume, not what gains followers, not what earns instant validation. What matters to you? We live in a culture that celebrates hustle. We glorify being busy. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, as if the more meetings we attend, the more emails we respond to, the more hours we clock in, the more successful we must be. But that's a dangerous lie, because busyness does not equal progress. Motion does not guarantee direction. And effort does not always lead to growth. Being constantly occupied can feel like you're achieving something. You're moving, you're active, your calendar is full. But if we stop for a moment and ask ourselves, where is all this effort actually taking me? The answer is often unclear. Many people are running hard, but they don't know where they're going. They're chasing goals that don't fulfill them, doing tasks that aren't aligned with their values, and solving problems that don't actually matter. That's not progress. That's just noise. Progress requires intention. It demands that we pause and ask the hard questions. What am I really working toward? What's the purpose behind this task? Is this helping me grow? Or is it just keeping me distracted? Those are uncomfortable questions, because they force us to admit that much of what we do is reactionary. We reply because someone emailed us. We attend meetings because we were invited. We take on responsibilities because someone asked. And before we know it, we're overwhelmed, but not fulfilled. True progress means moving closer to something that matters. It's not about how much you do, it's about how meaningful the results are. You can spend years climbing a ladder, only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. That's the cost of mistaking busyness for growth. That's the risk when we measure success by activity instead of impact. The hardest part is that being busy feels productive. It gives us a sense of control. We check things off our to-do lists and feel like we've accomplished something. But busy work can often be a form of procrastination. It keeps us from facing the deeper, more meaningful challenges, the ones that actually demand thought, vulnerability, and courage. We stay in motion so we don't have to stop and reflect, because reflection is uncomfortable. But reflection is where progress begins. You see, anyone can fill a schedule. Anyone can stay busy. But it takes clarity and discipline to say no to what doesn't matter. It takes courage to stop, zoom out, and ask, is this still the right direction for me? That kind of pause can feel counterintuitive, especially in a world that prizes constant action. But growth often comes from stillness, from choosing purpose over pressure, from doing less, but doing it with more intention. So the next time you find yourself overwhelmed with busyness, ask yourself, am I actually moving forward? Or am I just spinning in place? Is my effort building something meaningful, or is it just a distraction from what truly matters? You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to do everything. You just need to be moving in the right direction. Because real progress is not about how fast you go, it's about where you're going and why. And that's the difference between a life that's full and a life that's fulfilled. We often blame a lack of time for our inability to get things done, to pursue our goals, or to live with purpose. But the truth is, time isn't the real issue. Distraction. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, yet some people create, build, grow, and thrive, while others feel stuck, constantly pulled in different directions. The difference lies in where we place our attention. Distraction is subtle. It doesn't always look like scrolling on your phone or flipping through TV channels. Sometimes it disguises itself as productivity. We answer emails, attend meetings, check notifications, and stay busy. But at the end of the day, we've made little progress toward what truly matters. We mistake motion for meaning. But in reality, we're just being pulled away from our deepest priorities by 100 small interruptions. The real danger of distraction isn't that it wastes your time, it's that it steals your focus without you even realizing it. You might start your day with a clear intention, but one text message, one headline, one unimportant task, and suddenly your mind is off course. You were going to write, reflect, create, build, but now you're reacting. You're not leading your day anymore. Your day is leading you. Every time we allow ourselves to be distracted, we weaken the muscle of discipline. We train ourselves to be reactive rather than intentional. And the cost isn't just productivity, it's clarity. When your attention is fragmented, your mind becomes noisy. It's harder to think deeply, harder to create, harder to connect. You live in a state of constant mental clutter, where the urgent always wins over the important. This kind of living takes a toll. Over time, distraction drains your energy and erodes your sense of purpose. You start to feel like you're working hard, but getting nowhere. Like you're always doing something, but nothing is ever truly done. And worst of all, you become numb to it. You start accepting this scattered way of living as normal, forgetting what it feels like to be fully present, deeply focused, and emotionally invested in something meaningful. Reclaiming your focus is not about getting rid of all distraction, because some of it is inevitable. It's about choosing what deserves your attention and being ruthless with everything else. It's about building systems that protect your time, creating environments that support deep work, and most importantly, remembering why you started in the first place. Purpose is the antidote to distraction. When you know why you're doing something, it becomes easier to say no to the things that don't align. When you're clear on what matters, the noise loses its power. You stop chasing every notification. You stop jumping to please every demand. You begin to own your day instead of reacting to it. This isn't easy. In a world that profits off your distraction, staying focused is an act of rebellion, but it's a necessary one, because your future depends on it. The life you want, the relationships you value, the work that fulfills you, none of it happens by accident. It happens when you choose attention over distraction, clarity over noise, and depth over speed. So the next time you're tempted to check out, to give in to the latest distraction, remember, every moment you spend unfocused is a moment stolen from something that actually mattered. And you can't afford to keep giving your life away in pieces. We're taught that saying yes is a good thing. It means we're agreeable, dependable, ambitious. We say yes to opportunities, yes to helping others, yes to invitations, requests, responsibility. But what we're rarely taught is this: every yes comes at a cost. When you say yes to something, you're not just committing your time, you're also committing your energy, your focus, your presence. And those are limited resources. Every time you agree to do something, you're automatically saying no to something else. Whether you realize it or not, you're giving up time you could have spent on your health, your growth, your relationships, or your purpose. The problem is, most of us say yes without thinking. We want to be liked. We don't want to disappoint. We fear missing out or being seen as selfish. So we stretch ourselves thin, piling on responsibilities that don't align with our goals or values. Then we wonder why we feel burned out, unfulfilled, or resentful. It's not because we're doing too little. It's because we're doing too much of the wrong things. Saying yes is easy in the moment. It feels good to be needed or involved. But the hard part is the aftermath. When you're overbooked, stressed, and struggling to stay connected to what really matters to you. Suddenly, your calendar is full, but your soul feels empty. You're moving fast, but in a direction you never chose. This is the invisible cost of yes. It slowly pulls you away from your purpose. It dilutes your focus. It spreads your energy across so many things that you don't have the capacity to go deep on anything. You become reactive instead of intentional. You're constantly managing obligations instead of creating impact. The truth is, the most fulfilled and effective people aren't the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who are incredibly selective. They've learned to pause before agreeing. They evaluate every request through the lens of their purpose, their values, and their goals. If it doesn't align, they say no, not because they're rude or arrogant, but because they know what's at stake. Saying no is an act of clarity. It's an act of courage. It means you're choosing to honor your priorities. Instead of chasing approval, it means you understand that boundaries are not walls. They're filters, filters that protect what's most important. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to accept every invitation, solve every problem, or carry every burden. The more you say no to things that don't serve you, the more space you create for what does. Space to rest, space to think, space to pursue what lights you up, space to be fully present for the people and projects that deserve your best. So before you say yes, ask yourself, what am I giving up to make room for this? Does this align with where I want to go? Will I be proud of how I spent my energy? Because time is a currency you can't earn back. Every yes is an investment. Make sure you're investing in something that actually matters. And remember, you don't need to justify your no. Protecting your peace, your purpose, and your energy is reason enough. Saying no to the wrong things is how you say yes to the right life. Most people live their lives reacting, responding to demands, chasing deadlines, answering messages, fulfilling obligations. Day after day, they check boxes, move fast, and stay busy. But busyness doesn't always equal meaning, and movement without direction often leads us nowhere. That's why it's essential to pause and clarify what truly matters. It's easy to get lost in the noise of the world. Everywhere we turn, someone is telling us what success looks like, what goals we should have, how we should live, and who we should be. Social media, advertising, peer pressure, they all pull us outward. They make us compare, compete, and conform. But when you spend your life following someone else's version of meaning, you wake up one day and realize you never defined your own. Clarifying what matters isn't a one-time decision. It's a constant process of reflection and alignment. It begins by asking the questions we're often too busy or too afraid to ask. What do I value most? What gives me energy? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? Answering those questions honestly takes courage, because sometimes the answers will require change. They might reveal that you're on a path that no longer fits. They might show that the people you're trying to impress don't align with your value, or that the success you're chasing isn't your definition of success. It's someone else's. But here's the truth. Until you get clear on what truly matters to you, everything will feel urgent. Everything will demand your attention. Every opportunity will look appealing. And that's how you end up exhausted, overcommitted, and disconnected from yourself. Clarity is power. When you know what matters most, decision-making becomes easier. You stop chasing everything and start focusing on the few things that align with your core. You learn to say no, not out of guilt, but out of purpose. Because when your time and energy are limited, saying yes to what matters means saying no to what doesn't. Getting clear on your values is like building a compass. It doesn't give you all the answers, but it gives you direction. It helps you make decisions that feel right, not just look right. It keeps you grounded when everything around you feels chaotic. It protects you from living a life full of achievement, but empty of fulfillment. And this clarity doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. When you live in alignment with your values, you become more present, more consistent, and more authentic. You stop performing and start connecting. You stop proving and start leading. That kind of clarity is contagious. It gives others permission to do the same. So take the time to define what truly matters, not what impresses others, not what sounds good on paper, but what brings you peace, what ignites your soul, what makes you proud, not in public, but in private. That's the foundation of a meaningful life. Don't wait for a crisis to clarify your values. Don't wait for burnout to force you to slow down. Begin now. Sit with the hard questions. Listen to your own voice. Reflect on what gives your life meaning, not just what fills your schedule. Because once you know what truly matters, everything else becomes noise. And life gets a lot simpler when you're no longer trying to be everything, but instead becoming exactly who you were meant to be. We live in an age where multitasking is celebrated and constant stimulation is the norm. We're told that doing more is better, that the more we juggle, the more productive we become. But real impact doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things with clarity and intention. Impact comes from focus. Focus is rare in today's world. We're surrounded by distractions, notifications, news, opinions, endless information. We bounce from one thing to another, rarely staying with anything long enough to master it. But distraction spreads us thin. It robs us of depth. And depth is where impact is born. Think about the people who truly change things. The leaders, the artists, the builders, the thinkers. They're not the ones who dabble in 1,000 things. They're the ones who commit to one thing and go deep. They pick a mission, a craft, a purpose, and they give it their full attention. Not for an hour or a week, but for years. That kind of focus creates momentum, and momentum creates lasting change. When you focus, you begin to build mastery. You stop being surface level and start creating substance. You give yourself permission to grow, to struggle, and to refine. And in that process, your work gains power, your voice gets stronger, your vision gets sharper. You stop being a generalist and start becoming someone who is unmistakably excellent at what they do. The irony is that focus feels limiting at first. It feels like you're saying no to too many things, like you're missing out. But the truth is, you're not missing out. You're doubling down. You're giving yourself a chance to make a real difference, instead of scattering your energy so thin that nothing sticks. Because when everything is a priority, nothing, and when you're always switching lanes, you never build enough speed to go anywhere meaningful. You get caught in a loop of starting but not finishing, trying but not transforming, moving but not progressing. Focus requires discipline. It means saying no to things that might be good, so you can make space for what is great. It means turning down noise, even if it's popular. It means protecting your energy like it's the most valuable thing you have. Because it is. This applies not just to work, but to life. Focus helps you be a better partner, a better parent, a better friend. It allows you to show up fully, not partially. People feel when you're fully present. They feel when you're not distracted. And those are the moments that create trust, connection, and influence. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to do everything. You just need to commit to one direction, with your whole heart, one mission, one purpose, one path that reflects what matters to you. When you align your energy with your values and your time with your priorities, something powerful happens. Your life becomes congruent. You stop feeling scattered. You stop chasing approval, and you start becoming unstoppable. So if you want to make a real impact on your work, your relationships, your community, stop trying to be everywhere. Pick your path. Go deep. Stay consistent, because it's not the most talented people who create change. It's the most focused. And in a distracted world, focus isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. When life feels overwhelming, our instinct is often to wish for more time. We say things like, if only I had a few more hours in the day, or I just need more time to get everything done. But the problem isn't time, it's alignment. You don't need more hours. You need more clarity about how you're using the hours you already have. Everyone gets the same 24 hours. The difference between people who move forward and those who feel stuck isn't how much time they have, it's how aligned their actions are with what actually matters. You can be busy all day every day and still make no progress toward your goals if your energy is going in the wrong direction. Time will always feel scarce when you're living out of alignment, when your calendar is filled with things that drain you, obligations that don't reflect your values, or goals you're chasing for the wrong reasons. Even a 40-hour day won't feel like enough. You'll always be running, but never arriving. Alignment means your actions match your priorities. It means your energy is going where your heart is. It's about making sure what you're doing today reflects the life you actually want, not just the life you think you're supposed to be living. When you're aligned, you don't need to do more. You just need to do what matters most. So many people are exhausted, not because they're lazy, but because they're out of sync. They're investing time into relationships,
that aren't reciprocal, careers that don't inspire them, and habits that keep them stuck. They're chasing someone else's definition of success, checking off boxes they didn't choose, and wondering why they feel so disconnected from their own life. Getting into alignment starts with asking hard questions. What do I truly value? What gives me purpose? What am I doing just to please others? Where am I spending time that doesn't serve me? These questions require honesty, and the answers may challenge the way you've been living. But that's the point. Real alignment doesn't come from comfort. It comes from clarity. Once you begin to live in alignment, everything changes. Your decisions get simpler. You say no with more confidence. You stop chasing every opportunity and start choosing the right one. You don't feel as overwhelmed. Not because you have less to do, but because what you're doing finally makes sense. Even your pace changes. Alignment allows you to slow down without falling behind. You become intentional, not impulsive. You start to experience momentum that feels sustainable, not forced. That's because aligned actions have a different kind of power. They don't just move you forward, they move you forward in the right direction. You also start to protect your time more fiercely. You stop allowing guilt, pressure, or fear to dictate how you spend your days. You become more grounded in your why, and less vulnerable to distractions disguised as opportunities. Alignment gives you a filter, a way to measure what deserves your yes, and what doesn't even deserve a response. So no, you don't need more time. You need to realign, because when your energy is in sync with your purpose, time expands. You get more done with less effort. You feel less stressed, more present, and more fulfilled. And the best part, you start to experience peace, not because your life is perfect, but because it's finally yours. You don't need a new calendar. You need a new commitment to live each day in a way that honors who you are and what truly matters. That's the power of alignment. And that's how you turn time into something meaningful.